Welcome to Things You Don't Know. Today I'm here with Chandler Foster. And in this episode, which is part of our continuing series on Native American traditions and contributions, in this episode, we're looking at the Native American face paint, body paint, tattoos, hairstyles, jewelry, feathers, masks, and other forms of personal decoration. A popular culture often reduces this subject to the two words war paint. Okay, now, some native warriors did paint themselves before battle. Hey, guess what? The American military is still doing it. But treating every painted face as war paint would be like calling every modern uniform, wedding dress, tattoo, sports jewelry, piece of makeup, or religious garment the same thing. Body decorations could be spiritual, ceremonial, military, artistic, personal, psychological, social, or practical. Sometimes it served several purposes at once, right, Chandler?
That's exactly right, Dr. Weaver. And you know what? We also need to make one point perfectly clear right from the beginning. There was no single Native American system of face paint. There were and still are hundreds of distinct native nations with their own languages, histories, environments, religions, and artistic traditions.
Well put, and that is exactly correct. A color or design used by one nation might have a different meaning in another, or no meaning there at all. Even within one nation, a design might belong to a family, a clan, a ceremonial society, healer, dancer, warrior, or individual. Some designs were public, others were sacred, private, or earned.
So listeners should be cautious about charts claiming that red always meant war, black always meant victory, or white meant peace. Real cultures are rarely just that simple. Even today, black clothing can represent mourning, formality, protest, fashion, or personal preference. Context matters here, doesn't it, Dr. Weaver?
It really does, Chandler. With that in mind, let us begin with a basic idea. The body can be a form of communication. Now, throughout history, people have communicated identity through clothing, hair, paint, jewelry, tattoos, scars, and posture. A painted face might say, I belong to this community, or I am participating in this ceremony, or it might mean, I am mourning, or I have earned an honor, or I am preparing for danger, or it could just be, this is how I choose to present myself today.
Absolutely, and young people understand this even if they do not think of it as history. A hairstyle, teen shirt, necklace, tattoo, a bracelet, or a pair of shoes could communicate something about identity. Sometimes the message is intentional, and sometimes other people interpret it whether the wearer intended them to or not.
Yes, you're quite right, Chandler, and it reminds me of well, myself and many other people in the 70s. When we say hairstyle, well, my hair was very long. I it used the garment of a hippie, kind of,
All throughout the 70s?
pretty much.
Cool.
Yeah. Anyhow, that helps explain how body decoration could be both personal and communal. But much of the early written information about native appearance came from European explorers, soldiers, traders, missionaries, and settlers. Some recorded valuable details, but they often misunderstood what they saw. They might accurately describe red pigment around someone's eyes, incorrectly guess why it was worn. Paintings and photographs present similar problems. Some preserve useful information, others are staged, altered, mislabeled, or created to satisfy non native expectations.
So, in other words, Dr. Weaver, historians may know what something looked like without knowing exactly what it meant, huh?
Oh, absolutely.
Hmm.
The strongest explanations come from native communities themselves, from oral histories, tribal museums, cultural specialists, artists, and living practitioners. And some sacred knowledge is not intended for outsiders. Let that one sink in for a minute. That this has more than just some, stylistic thing. Could be sacred. We can recognize that a design is important without demanding every detail. Chandler, move us from meaning to materials just briefly. How were these paints made?
Well, traditional pigments came from the surrounding environment. Different peoples used colored clays, charcoal, soot, limestone, minerals, plants, tree materials, berries, and other available substances. Pigments often had to be mixed with a binder so that they would remain on skin, hair, leather, wood, or cloth. Animal fat and oils could serve that purpose.
And often did, yeah. Among the Mandan, Hidatsa, Erica, peoples of the Northern Plains, natural clays supplied colors that could be mixed with animal fat. The Choctaw historical accounts describe bear oil being used on the hair and skin as a binder for body paint. And the Alatig communities of coastal Alaska, black pigments could be made from charcoal or particular stones and materials. White pigment could be made from limestone obtained through trade.
I think that's actually a very cool process and some of the materials that are used. So producing this paint required knowledge of chemistry even when nobody used that word.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. People needed to know where materials could be found, how to grind and mix, and which substances stayed on the skin and which might cause irritation. And I have to say, I think the two latter are
Are very
quite
important.
important.
You got it. Yeah, very
Yes,
important.
sir. It also required knowledge of geography and trade, of pigment, shell, bead, or ornaments from far away could reveal connections between communities.
Yeah, that's really true. Later, manufactured pigments, cloth dyes, mirrors, metal ornaments, and glass beads were incorporated into native artistic traditions. That did not mean native cultures disappeared. Native artists selected new materials and adapted them to native purposes. Tradition is not frozen. It truly isn't. It can change while remaining quite meaningful. Those meanings were often connected to spirituality and ceremony. So let's move to that area. For many native peoples, the physical and spiritual worlds were deeply connected.
And I have to say, this is the part that really intrigues me, the spiritual aspect of the Native Americans.
Yes, indeed, and often overlooked or misinterpreted entirely. Animals, plants, weather, dreams, ancestors, songs, land, and human actions could all be part of spiritual relationships. And by the by, in mainstream American culture today, We still have some things to say about ancestors. Like some people feel like they've been visited by them or they get messages from them.
Oh, I do all the time. I've gotten them. I feel it. I have gotten them. Experienced it.
Uh huh.
Still to this day.
So you're not a savage?
I would like to think I'm not.
Well, I can tell you, you're not.
Well, I appreciate that, and neither are you.
Well, no, I'm not. Um, Under these circumstances, painting the body was not merely decorating its surface, it could prepare someone for a ceremony, a healing practice, seasonal observance, dance, initiation, religious responsibility, or a period of mourning.
Among Yupik peoples of western Alaska's ceremonial masks represented relationships among humans, animals, and the spirit world.
So you're not saying that they worshiped animals or other things, but that there was a connection. Is that what you're saying, Chandler?
Absolutely. And just because you have a divine connection to something, that does not mean whatsoever that you worship the thing.
Uh huh. There you go.
Yes, sir. Pueblo traditions have also included combinations of body paint, masks, feathers, textiles, songs, dances, and symbolic objects. But many ceremonies contain knowledge controlled by the communities themselves. They should not be treated as public entertainment staged for outsiders.
Yeah. That is important in the age of smartphones and social media. Being allowed to witness part of an event does not mean every song, prayer, design, or explanation belongs to the audience. Respect sometimes means accepting that we are not entitled to know or record everything.
Absolutely, and the process of applying paint could also matter. It might be accompanied by prayer, song, fasting, instruction, or careful preparation. The paint might be applied by the wearer, an elder, a relative, or someone with special ceremonial knowledge.
So the meaning was not always contained only in the finished design. It could also be found in who applied it, how it was applied, and what responsibilities accompanied it. Paint might express a relationship with an animal, an ancestor, a spiritual experience, or a ceremonial role. It was not simply a costume. And I might say, in that regard, too, that, it's almost been made fun of at times that people, outsiders, will say something about connection with Native Americans. Now, my father called me his little wolf. Now, did he think I was a wolf? No, he didn't. But he said some of those qualities were there for me. And I appreciate it and I remember it and I treasure that too. Body decorations could also mark changes in life: birth, puberty, marriage, achievement, illness, healing, grief, and death are not only biological events. Communities use rituals to help people recognize that one stage has ended and another has begun. Aleutic traditions offer one example of this. Both men and women traditionally wore tattoos. Yepers. Young women might receive fine vertical lines on the chin at puberty. These could be associated with adulthood, maturity, beauty, fertility, or readiness for marriage. Other tattoos appeared on the cheeks, arms, or chest. Sounds pretty modern to me.
Me too, Dr. Weaver.
Black face paint could also be associated with mourning. That also seems pretty modern with mainstream America. Black is often, associated with mourning, right?
Absolutely. Like black dresses, black paint, all of that. And that makes an internal emotion visible. A grieving person may feel completely changed, but other people may not see that. A visible sign tells the community that the person may need patience, support, or just even time. Modern Americans do something similar when they wear black to a funeral, lower a flag, or place a black band over a badge.
Yes. The visible sign does not create the grief. It communicates it and gives the community a way to respond. Some Native communities also used ceremonies to help warriors return from conflict. Hmm, maybe they had an idea about PTSD even back then, huh? Returning home
Mm.
physically did not always mean that someone had returned emotionally or spiritually. A ceremony could acknowledge the danger, loss, responsibility, and disruption of war before the person resumed ordinary community life.
That's right, Dr. Weaver. And modern militaries now speak about trauma, decompression, moral injury, and reintegration. Native communities recognized long ago that crossing back into civilian and family life could require more than simply just arriving home. It's not all just going to go back to normal.
That's right. Body decoration was not always connected with danger or sorrow. Uh-uh. People also painted, tattooed, pierced, styled their hair, or wore ornaments because human beings value beauty and personal expression.
Museum displays can make every native object appear extremely solemn. But native people have fashion, changing styles, personal preferences, and artistic experimentation. Among the Choctaw, facial tattoos known as insua could be associated with beauty for women and valor or distinction for men. In Alaska and the Northwest, decoration could include earrings, necklaces, bracelets, nose ornaments, shells, copper, carved pieces, tattoos, and lip ornaments.
Gosh, that just sounds so much like modern America, doesn't it?
Not to interrupt, Dr. Weaver, but you said this sounds like modern America. These are human beings. Hey, guess what? That means these Native Americans are human beings too. They're expressing themselves.
Imagine that.
Oh, yeah.
Such decoration could communicate maturity, achievement, family connection, wealth, regional identity, or social position. It could also tell a personal story. That remains true of the tattoos today, as we said.
Absolutely. A modern tattoo may represent family, military service, religion, recovery, remembrance, or belonging. And that does not make modern tattoo culture the same as indigenous tattoo traditions. It shows that people still use their bodies to carry stories. For some native people today, restoring ancestral tattooing is also part of cultural recovery after boarding schools, missionaries, and government programs try to suppress indigenous appearance, languages, and religious practices.
And to me, that is a crime.
Well,
That that
it's a crime, it's a shame, and it needs to be stopped.
in that setting, restoring a tattoo tradition can be artistic, personal, historical, political, and spiritual, all at the same time. Now we can turn to the most familiar and oversimplified part of the subject today. Some native warriors did paint themselves before battle. Paint might be connected to personal visions, spiritual protections, sort of like putting the sign of the cross on somebody when you baptize them. Mhm.
Hmm.
Spiritual protection, military societies, family traditions, achievements, or preparation for danger. Certain designs belonged to particular people and could not properly be copied by someone who had not earned or received them.
Now, could the paint also frighten an opponent? I bet you it could, couldn't it,
Yeah,
Dr. Weaver?
yeah, I would say possibly.
Oh,
A,
yeah.
a transformed appearance might make a fighter seem more formidable, but outsiders often assumed intimidation was the main purpose because that was the easiest meaning for them to understand. A European or American soldier might see an unfamiliar painted warrior and think, that is meant to frighten me. He would not necessarily know anything about the warrior's family, spiritual preparation, responsibilities, or achievements.
So the observer's fear could become the explanation, even when the design meant something very different to the wearer. So serving two different purposes, multi purposes.
Yes, exactly. Psychologically, preparing for battle requires a person to control fear, focus attention, accept danger, and place group responsibility above personal comfort, despite what some people have said about fallen warriors of America being losers.
Oh, God.
The act of painting can create a boundary between
Please.
ordinary life and combat. A person recalls responsibilities, checks equipment, organizes fear, and enters a different role.
The paint does not create courage by magic, but the ritual may help someone reach the mental state needed to act courageously.
Yeah, and that is a key distinction. Modern soldiers put on equipment in a particular order. Athletes use pre-game routines. Surgeons prepare carefully before an operation. Actors apply makeup before taking the stage. Physical preparation tells the mind that a new role has begun. Some plains peoples also painted horses. Yep, yep, yep. The horse might be decorated with pigments, feathers, blankets, or beadwork connected with the rider, warfare, ceremony, or achievement. The horse was not simply equipped, it could be a valued partner whose courage and relationship with the rider deserved recognition. So the human face is central to identity and communication. We read fear, anger, health, age, trust, and intention from faces. Altering the face can therefore affect both the wearer and the observer. Paint may strengthen identity by connecting the wearer with a family, community, ceremony, or military group. It may support a transition from one role to another. It may create visual unity among several people. It may provide confidence, discipline, solemnity, or a sense of spiritual protection. And it may influence observers through beauty, authority, uncertainty, or intimidation.
But those are possible functions, not universal explanation. Now, we should never assume that every native person experienced paint in the same way.
Yeah, you're really right about that, Chandler. Psychology can help us understand what rituals may do, but it should not erase cultural differences.
Very well said, Dr. Weaver. And there is also a social effect here. A painted person may see himself or herself differently, but the community also responds differently. Someone wearing ceremonial paint may be treated as a dancer, healer, mourner, initiate, veteran, or representative of the community. That creates expectations. A graduation gown works in a similar way. It does not create the achievement, but it does make the transition visible to both the graduate and the audience.
And it's a very useful comparison there. Identity is reinforced by the reactions of other people. That principle also helps us understand certain modern military practices. The clearest military parallel is camouflage face paint. Now, modern American soldiers and Marines cover exposed skin because skin reflects light. Foreheads, cheekbones, noses, ears, and hands can reveal a position. Camouflage breaks up recognizable shape of the face and reduces reflection. Its primary purpose is concealment rather than spiritual expression. Now, some modern products are also designed to reduce visibility through observation equipment using parts of the near infrared spectrum.
Even when the official purpose is practical, applying camouflage can still have a psychological effect. Before ward, each soldier has an ordinary, recognizable face. Afterward, the members of the unit appear more alike and more connected with the mission. That can create unity while also reminding them that they are entering danger.
Modern military identity is also expressed through uniforms, patches, insignia, tattoos, challenge coins, flags, and mottos. These are not the same as native traditions, and we should not claim direct descent, but both show a broader human tendency to use visible symbols to create unity, recognize achievement, preserve memory, and prepare for difficult action. There is also an interesting contrast. Modern camouflage usually makes a person less visible, supposedly. Some traditional warrior paint may have made a person more distinctive. One conceals identity from an opponent, the other may announce identity, commitment, accomplishment, or spiritual preparation.
Now, the same broad human behavior also appears outside the military. Sports fans paint their faces in teen colors. Athletes wear eye black. Actors use makeup to enter into a character. Musicians create stage appearances. People use tattoos, hairstyles, jewelry, and clothing to express their identity. Social media adds filters and carefully constructed public images. The technology changes, but people still use appearance to shape how others see them and how they see themselves.
The comparison is useful, but it does have some limits. Recognizing a shared human behavior does not give someone permission to copy a sacred or culturally specific native design. That brings us to the notion of respect and cultural appropriation. A useful rule is that sacred, earned, family owned, clan owned, or nation specific designs should not be copied as costumes. A non native person who paints random stripes on the face, adds a feather, and calls it, quote, Indian war paint, unquote, is not honoring Native peoples. That image collapses hundreds of nations into one stereotype, totally inappropriate.
Yes, it is, Dr. Weaver. And a useful question here is, am I learning about another culture, or am I using that culture as a costume? Learning means listening to native people, which I have had the experience and the pleasure to do in person, identifying specific nations and understanding that designs have histories. And as I told you, Dr. Weaver, I'd like to do a podcast breaking down some stuff with different nations.
Mm-hmm.
A costume usually removes the history and keeps only the appearance. And that issue can appear in Halloween costumes, school activities, sports mascots, and social media photographs.
The intent matters, but impact matters too. People can learn respectfully by visiting tribal museums, attending public cultural events appropriately, purchasing work from Native artists, reading Native authors, and listening when communities explain which practices are open and which are private. We must also speak in the present tense. Native people did not disappear in the 19th century. Face painting, tattooing, jewelry, beadwork, dance regalia, hairstyles, and ceremonial arts remain part of living cultures. Some traditions continued despite enormous pressure. Others are being actively restored. Thank goodness.
So a design can be ancient in origin and still be part of someone's modern identity. Tradition is not the opposite of modern life.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of the ways communities carry knowledge into modern life.
Native American face and body decoration differed across nations, regions, families, and historical periods. It could communicate beauty, adulthood, honor, mourning, spiritual experience, ceremonial responsibility, military preparation, or personal identity. The materials also reflect the knowledge of minerals, plants, animals, chemistry, geography, and trade. So basically, everything that makes up the chemicals of life, right, Dr. Weaver?
Yes, I agree. These traditions remind us that appearance is a language. Paint, clothing, song, movement, memory, environment, and spirituality can all work together. They also challenge the habit of separating everything into categories such as art, religion, fashion, psychology, or military history. A single design could be practical and symbolic, personal and communal, beautiful and sacred.
Modern Americans still use uniforms, makeup, tattoos, team colors, hairstyles, jewelry, and military camouflage to express identity and enter into important roles. That does not make those practices identical to native traditions, but it does help us understand the broader human need to make identity, memory, responsibility, and belonging visible.
The human body is never merely a blank surface. It can become a canvas, a uniform, a memorial, a statement, a prayer, a shield, or a history. To understand Native traditions of paint and decoration, we must move beyond stereotypes, recognize the diversity and sovereignty of Native nations, and listen to the people to whom these traditions belong. So, For Chandler and myself, I thank you for joining us in this episode of Things You Don't Know and our continuing series on Native American traditions and contributions. Chandler?
Yeah, guys, and please feel free to tell us which Native American traditions or contributions you would like us to explore next. We have some ideas in mind as well. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and return for more history that is more complicated and more interesting than the familiar version.